and it's about population samples. We mentioned the difference between populations and samples, and then the different sampling techniques. And we said that there are two kinds of sampling techniques: statistical sampling techniques, which is based on chance selection, or non-statistical sampling techniques based on accessibility and ease, like convenience or judgment. Okay. So what are the kinds of statistical sampling techniques? What are the kinds of statistical sampling techniques? We have a simple random sample. This is the fundamental statistical sample technique, the first one. Then we have stratified sampling. Okay, this is number 2. And we have systematic sampling. This is number 3. And we have cluster sampling, number 4. So we have 4 different techniques, all of them called statistical sampling techniques. Let us start with the first one, which is the fundamental one, simple random sampling. Here we choose using maybe random numbers. Okay, we give each member in the population a number, مثلا from 1 إلى 10,000 if the population is 10,000, and then we select randomly using tables. There are tables of random numbers, or using programs and laptops, Excel, calculator. We can use by calculator. We can select randomly by calculator or by Excel. We can use programs to select the sample we need. This way of selecting is called simple random sampling. So every possible sample of a specified size has an equal chance of being selected. Every member in the population has the same chance of being selected. Yani if we have 30 students in the class, we have 30 students in the class. If each student in the class has the same chance to be selected, and I select, for example, 5 students randomly, by random numbers, مثلا I put 1 to 30 in a box and I select, or I ask Excel or the calculator to select 5 numbers, فيطلع مثلا 2, 20, 25, 15, 17. These 5 numbers are randomly selected. This is the first method. The second method, let me talk about this method, which is number 3 in the book, but I will call it, I will talk about it first. Systematic random sampling. Okay, systematic random sampling. Systematic means there is a system of selecting. فالحقيقة we select every kth item in the population. Every kth item in the population. After a randomly selected starting point between 1 and k. So there is a starting point between 1 and k. So for example, if we have to determine the opinion of 20,000 students, if we have 20,000 students, and we need to choose a sample of 500 students using a systematic random sample, okay? How do we do that? We divide first 20,000 by 500, we get 40. بعدين we select randomly a number from 1 to 40. طبعا خلاص قلنا انه division الكوشنت 40 معنى كده انه the first 40 students I select one from them. I choose randomly بالاكسل او calculator مثلا 20 او 25, assume 25 مثلا. فالفirst student يكون 25, second student I add 40, okay, فيكون 26. بعدين I add another 40, I add another 40, فيصير each 40th. فالكي هنا in this case is 40, وتكون السامبل each 40th. Okay, مثلا if you want to make the numbers easy يعني you can talk about مثلا we have 30 students in the class, 30 students, select مثلا 5. Okay, using a systematic sampling technique. For what to do, I divide 30 by 5. This will give you K. This will give you K. فالآن from the first 5 students, from 1 to 5, select a student. Okay, select a student. مثلا by calculator I selected 3. فال3 هو first one. بعدين I add what? Each sixth. Okay, each sixth. فيكون 3. بعدين I add 6 9. I add 6 15. I add 6 21. I add 6 27. Isn't it? Okay, 15 21 27. These are the 5 students selected systematically, okay, using a systematic technique. These are the 5 students. So this is the systematic random sampling. The second method is called stratified random sampling. Stratified. This is method number 2. Here we divide the population into subgroups. Population is divided into subgroups. So if this is the population, for example, we may divide the population into مثلا 4 or 5 groups. Okay, 5 groups مثلا. بعدين after that, from each group we select a sample. Sample items are selected from each stratum. Stratum اللي هي one group يعني, using the simple random sampling method. يعني هنا group 1 A B C مثلا, A هذه sub group A وهذه B C D E. فالآن from each subgroup أو from each subset we select a sample. بعدين if you add all of these samples يطلع معك السامبل المطلوب, the required sample. Okay, فإذا مثلا from here you choose 3 3 3 3 3, so you have 3 times 5 15, so your sample would be 15. So this is the stratified. From each subset you select a sample. Let us take an example. For example, financial institutions at USA, okay, all financial institutions. If we need to select a sample of all financial institutions, we may think the financial institutions are different. Some of them are very large, في medium size, first small size. So we can divide all financial institutions into 3 subsets or subgroups: large institutions, medium-sized institutions, small institutions. And now from each subgroup we select a sample, N1, N2, N3, and now if you add N1 plus N2 plus N3 you get the sample size you need or the sample required. So this is the stratified. You divide into subgroups and from each subgroup you select a number, sample. The last part, which is cluster sampling, we also divide here the population into groups. So it's similar to the stratified. So we divide into subgroups 1 2 3 مثلا 5, okay, 5 subgroups. لكن هنا we select 1 or 2 or 3 as you wish على حسب according to your what your budget ولا whatever. You select 1 or 2 subsets, whole subsets. Okay, فهنا you select one or two or more, okay, or more subsets. So the difference between stratified and cluster, in the stratified, you don't select one or two clusters or subsets. لا, from each subset you select a group or a sample. But cluster sampling, you don't go to each one of them. You just select one or two of them. Okay, and a very nice example here is a marketing firm wants to select randomly people from a stadium full of people in the stadium, you know, and the marketing firm wants to go to the stadium and select some people from there as a sample, as a random sample. So what is the best way, the best method for them? The first one is not possible. The simple random sample, they are not numbered. The people in the stadium are not numbered. Okay, so we cannot choose by laptop or by something, and they are watching the game. Yani. So what to do? Systematic. They are not ordered. We cannot go to each 40 person type. What to do? Stratified. If we divide the stadium into sections, okay, section, assuming we have 100 sections in the stadium, 100 different sections in the stadium. Can we go to each section and select 10 or 20 people? It would be difficult going through all the sections in the stadium and select 20 from each section. This would be also difficult for the marketing firm. So the best way for them is to just select one or two sections of the stadium. طبعا putting in our mind, all the sections have people watching the game, they are almost the same. If we select one or two sections from these 100 sections, this would be randomly selected, and this is cluster sampling. Now you can select all the people in these two sections, or if you don't have time, you can select 100 to 200 from these two sections only. This is called a cluster sampling. Let us solve two exercises here. Question 134. The human resources manager of a university, okay, emailed a survey questionnaire. So this manager sent an email, questionnaire in an email to 150 employees in the company. طبعا this 150 is a sample لأنه the company has a lot of employees. How did he choose this sample? The sample included 50 employees randomly selected from each of the category of administration, teaching staff, non-teaching staff. Okay, so he divided the university into three subgroups: administration people, teaching staff, and non-teaching staff. And from each subgroup, he selected 50 employees. 50 plus 50 plus 50, he got 150 employees. This is his sample, and he sent the questionnaire to them. Now the question, what sampling method was used by the manager?
Cluster.
لا
stratified.
صحيح, stratified. Cluster, if he selects one group, administration فقط, or teaching staff only, or non-teaching staff only, if he selects one of them or two of these groups, subgroups, هنا تكون cluster. لكن he selects 50 from each subgroup, this is the definition of the stratified sampling. Let us try 135. During the 2016 presidential campaign, NBC News Wall Street Journal poll conducted. This is a journal poll conducted. What is a journal poll? Do you understand the meaning of journal poll conducted? البول يعني تصويت. Okay. أحيانا الجورنال على الموقع on the site of the journal ينزل poll يقول لك مثلا are you will you elect Hillary Clinton or will you elect Marco Rubio? Okay. Which one would you elect, Marco Rubio or Hillary Clinton? Poll in the site, on the site of this journal. Some people will enter and will answer the question. And that's what happened. So between in December and January, between these two dates, showed that this poll showed that this person, Marco Rubio, would beat Hillary Clinton in the general election, 47% for Marco, 44.5 for Hillary Clinton. Now, are these values, اللي 47%, 45, statistics or parameters? What is the difference between a statistic or parameter? It would be statistic if the values are taken from a sample. It would be a parameter, the values would be parameters if these values are taken from population. So these values, اللي 47%, this is from the poll conducted by the journal. Is this a sample or a population?
A population.
لا طبعا, it's a sample. It is not a population at all لأنه الsample, the people who entered the journal site and answered the question. This is not all the USA people. Not everyone in the USA entered the journal site and put and answered the question. Only the people who saw and who are interested in answering the question, isn't it? And some people are not interested even in answering the question. But this is a sample of people or population of USA. In fact, these values in this case are statistics because they are taken from a sample, not from population. Like when you say, for example, now إنه Biden got مثلا 51% to Trump 49% in the presidential election, is this a population figure or a sample figure? لا, هذا 51 كان from all people who can elect at USA, فهذا population figure. But this is not like here. Here هذا المagazine, الجورنال, on their site, they made a question like this, and the people answered this question, but only sample of the population answered the question. So this is 134 and 135. Let us finally end with this exercise. A company has 17,000 employees. Okay. The file containing the names of these employees is ordered by employee number 1, number 2, number 3. So they are ordered, okay? 1, 2, 3, up to 17,000. If a sample of 100 employees is to be selected from the 17,000 using systematic random sampling. So what is K?
17,000
over 100, which is 170. فإذا each 170 employee, 70th employee, we select one of them. What is the question? Within what range of employee numbers will the first employee selected come from? يعني the first employee to select, and you are going to select 100. The first one from which range? Okay, from which range? The range is
170.
The range is from employee 1 to 170. From 1 to 170. So we can choose employee number 1 or 2 or 3 إلى 170, until 170. If you select one of these, مثلا number 100 randomly, you start adding 170, 170, and so on. I stop here, and we take your questions if you don't understand anything in the lecture.